What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Michael here with Scott, and welcome to FudgeMuppet. Recently, we've been doing a whole lot of thinking about how to create the perfect single-player Fallout game, and we even ended up creating an entire ideal Fallout Wyoming video based on the New Vegas ending where the Khans flee Red Rock Canyon and carve out a new empire with the help of the followers of the apocalypse. We came together and brainstormed with you on a YouTube live stream, and we just can't get enough. We're going to create more ideal Fallout games based on different locations, but in this video, we're going to kickstart a series to run alongside it, presenting you with 5 things we want in Fallout 5 or any future single-player Fallout game. It could be a spin-off created by Obsidian, whatever, just a new sensational Fallout game. Whatever it is, we want it to be single-player, and we and you want it to be good. If you've got some cool ideas about this kind of stuff, be sure to come to our live streams because we'll actually be doing some fun brainstorming together live, and you can discuss your thoughts with us, and many of the ideas will even make it into future videos like this. We're hoping to do a stream this week, and we'll announce the times on my Twitter, linked down below. Also, in the tradition of the same series we've released for Elder Scrolls 6, be sure to give us your top comment-worthiest consequences that we'll be facing if there's not a part 2. But in the spirit of a part 1, with no pressure from those top comments, it's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy as Scott begins this Fallout discussion.
The first feature that we desperately want in Fallout 5 is the trait system. If you're familiar with Fallout New Vegas, or perhaps its predecessors Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, then you would know that traits are essentially these cool little perks that you pick at character creation, which further help define your own individual character. In Fallout 4, these were not around anymore, and personally, we felt they were sorely missed. Traits have amazing role-playing benefits and help you define your character from the get-go. For example, in New Vegas, there was the Four Eyes trait, which instantly gives you a -1 to perception, but when you wear glasses, it gives you +2 perception. Then there is also the Small Frame trait, which gives you +1 agility, but you take 25% more limb damage. So if you wanted to be some nerdy scientist energy weapons character that always had poor eyesight and brittle limbs, but uses technology to more than make up for it, then these are examples of traits that could make the statistics of the game reflect your role-playing choices, which we think is always a great idea in a role-playing game. Then there were traits like Good-Natured, which added +5 to all diplomatic and tech-type skills, such as speech, medicine, repair, and so on, but it came with the penalty of -5 to all combat skills, such as guns and melee weapons. So, if you were aiming to play a character who was very diplomatic, intelligent, and perhaps used companions mainly for combat, then this would be a perfect choice. Maybe you're a melee character with low luck. Well, the heavy-handed trait is perfect for this, increasing your melee and unarmed damage by 20%, but you do 60% less critical damage with melee and unarmed. You can see how these traits, when picked from the start, help you craft a build and particular role-playing experience. But even disregarding the role-playing element, you can just look at the fun trade-offs that may make a playthrough more challenging or interesting. Look at the Gifted trait in Fallout 1 and 2. It gives you a permanent +1 to all of your special stats, but you earn 5 less skill points per level up, and you have -10% to all your skills. Imagine if in Fallout 5 there was a trait you could pick called Good Luck, You'll Need It, that gave you +3 luck, but made it so you received 20% more damage from all sources. That could have some really awesome applications for a glass cannon critical build. So in Fallout 5, we would love to see the return of traits. There was no real reason they had to be absent from Fallout 4. Sure, skills were removed, but traits like Four Eyes and Small Frame or Heavy-Handed relate directly to special stats or damage, which were still part of the game. In summary, let's get traits back in Fallout 5 for all the unique role-playing and gameplay possibilities.
The second desire on our list gives us a ton of player freedom when someone like Hadvar asks, "Who are you?" In the next true Fallout game, we'd want our character to have a very open-ended backstory, allowing us the freedom to create most of it in our head. One of the choices made for Fallout 4 was to give the player a very predefined backstory. You were 100% certified pre-war. If you were a male, you were in the military. If you were a female, you went to law school. You came from Vault 111, your partner dies at the start of the game at the hands of Kellogg, your son is taken, and and who he becomes is all set in stone. It sets you up for a pretty interesting story, which is neat, and we enjoyed it, but by making this story so personal, the journey to finding your son, it sacrifices the ability to roleplay such a huge variety of different characters. Admittedly, having voiced protagonists reduced freedom even more. We had to get very creative when we made our Fallout 4 builds and employ some Olympic-level mental gymnastics when we wanted to make super unique backstories. Sure, a much more set backstory facilitated some deep themes to be explored in the story, but you can still create a deep and engaging story and an amazing Fallout experience without restricting your character's identity. In Fallout New Vegas, you started the game as a courier who was shot in the head, and you're going to go find the shooter and recover the package you had to deliver. It didn't particularly feel like you needed to rush to find him, and there was no strong atmosphere of high urgency. Most importantly, you could still originate from all kinds of locations. You could have become a courier for a variety of reasons, and you could roleplay having all sorts of life experiences if you wanted to. You were post-war, unless you wanted to roleplay that you were frozen somewhere, Fallout 4 style, and if you wanted to do that, you technically could. Maybe you're a gangster from New Reno fleeing crime lords and a debt you can't repay. Maybe you're a tribal from the Yosemite National Park area who was born with a ridiculously high IQ and later goes on to explore science and tinker with advanced weaponry after NCR forces wiped out your tribe. Sure, you needed to think of a reason to eventually become a courier, but that was easy. This is why in both our ideal Fallout New Orleans and our ideal Fallout Wyoming, we created more blank slate setups. In our New Orleans game, you were a traveler arriving at a town on a boat. You choose your character's appearance and name when the captain asks who you are, and when you arrive, you hold up a package pickup form which directs you to go collect a package from a warehouse-looking building. You're asked to fill out a form first, which is your special stats, traits, and tag skills, and then you're given your item, which turns out to be a Pip-Boy 3000. Then a masked killer murders someone in front of you, running off and giving you the option to speak to the sheriff, or not. The world is your oyster. In our Fallout Wyoming video, we set it up so that you wake up in a trading post. The owner of the bunkhouse you've stayed the night in asks you how you are. You have a variety of options to tell her, some with lie written next to them in brackets, or you could just say that it's none of her business. Either way, you're in possession of a Pip-Boy 3000, and how you got that is for you to decide in your own head. What you have equipped depends on what you said to her. You can trade with merchants, get side quests, and many people will point you in the direction of a town that will lead you straight to a middle point of faction conflict on the map, and it all opens up from there. In a nutshell, we prefer these more blank slate openings for characters so that for the most part, you are the one who decides why you're there, what you want to do, and who you are. It's just the best way to do it for ultimate role-playing freedom.
The third feature that we would love to see in Fallout 5 is good old classic skills. Fallout 4 famously removed skills from the Fallout formula, and this didn't go down too well with a lot of people. You see, skills are essential. You need some kind of quantifier, some numerical value to help determine your character's proficiency with certain things. Sure, skills are more boring, but they are needed to separate the stale boosts like flat damage from the exciting ones like perks, such as End Stayback, which allows shotguns to have a chance to knock enemies to the ground. But now here's the secret. Fallout 4 has skills, but hidden in the form of perks, which is why many of the perks are rather stale. In essence, the Iron Fist, Big Leagues, Heavy Gunner, Rifleman, Locksmith, Demolition Expert, Cap Collector, Medic, Hacker, Gunslinger, Commando, and Sneak perks, as well as their ranks for the most part, are just skills in perk form. Now you may think that doesn't matter, but what it does is it results in less unique perks because they have been replaced by skills, so you just end up with less overall. Consider this, Fallout 4 has 70 perks, which have various ranks that enhance them. Of those perks, 12 are already just skills, then on top of that, Armorer, Blacksmith, Gun Nut, and Science are entirely related to crafting, as is the Scrapper perk, so there is another 5 that could be relegated to a skill system. For example, they could be secondary effects of the Repair and Science skills, or perhaps a new skill called Craftsmanship. So already of the 70 perks in Fallout 4, 17 of them could just be skills, so why not have skills separately and replace those 17 perks with exciting and unique bonuses, such as the Sneering Imperialist perk, which increases your damage by 15% against all tribal, raider, and junkie types, as well as a bonus hit chance in VATS against them, and on top of that it gives you bonus dialogue options, all of which feels a lot more exciting to get rather than Big League's rank 3, which is essentially just a higher melee weapon skill resulting in more damage. Perhaps Fallout 5 could have a skills list something like this: small guns, long guns, and big guns, all of which affect energy weapons as well, or you could have a gun skill and energy weapon skill, both of which affect different sizes of their respective weapons, which works better if weapons have strength requirements. The science skill could determine both your hacking and your science crafting ability. The repair skill, or perhaps it would be renamed the craftsman skill, could govern the crafting of armor, guns, and melee weapons. Then you'd have lockpicking, medicine, barter, speech, explosives, melee weapons, unarmed, and even the survival skill, which could have new applications depending on what the rest of Fallout 5 entails. However it's done, it's essentially a return to the old ways, effectively splitting basic stat boosts to reflect your character experience into skills, and then unique bonuses in the form of perks that further define and enhance your character.
Next on our list is the desire for more true unique weapons and armors. Unique uniques. We must take the uniqueness to the max. Okay, I think I've made myself clear. So, one of the problems with Fallout 4 was that there weren't as many true uniques as there should have been. The makeup of a true unique weapon or armor piece is A, that you cannot make the same thing by modifying another weapon, B, you can't find it randomly, as in there's only one in the game, and C, it doesn't look the exact same as anything else in the game. There are some good true uniques in Fallout 4, like the Cryolator and Grognak's Axe, and the reason they work well is because they're not based on a base model that can be modified. They're entirely different weapons to anything else you can find. We think that the introduction of the legendary items system and the massive flexibility of crafting diminished the focus on real unique gear. For example, if I can just take a plasma pistol and turn it into a plasma rifle, it's cool to do, but it diminishes the rarity of plasma rifles versus pistols. This extends to everything, and while neither of those are true uniques, you can see where I'm going. So if I can acquire a unique plasma rifle, as in it has a unique effect, and then I can just modify it to be a pistol or a sniper and it just looks like every other copy of these weapons, there's really not that much difference. This is enhanced by the fact that the unique effect in Fallout 4 tended to be a legendary effect, which you could find randomly dropped by legendary enemies. This meant that you could end up finding and modifying a legendary item to be the exact same item functionally and aesthetically as a so-called unique item you got as a quest reward or had to buy from a shopkeeper, an item with a special name too. In Far Harbor, they committed this offense many times, giving you multiple variants of harpoon guns and the other newly introduced weapon models over and over again. The legendary item system in itself deserves critique, and in some ways hinders true unique development by adding unrealistic effects to normal items. For example, if you have a pair of brass knuckles that shock enemies when you block, but they look normal, it stops developers from making the same thing, of which there's only one in the game, but it looks like some pair of brass knuckles with wiring all around it and a battery attached. But even if we were forced to keep this system and the crafting system as they were, there's still not an excuse for why we can't just have more unique items where there is no base model to find. For example, you could add a katana to Fallout 5, but make it so that there's only one in the game. You could have just one flintlock pistol and it's some sort of pre-war antique that you find in a high enemy level museum. It's the scarcity that makes them truly unique, and these examples don't even need a unique effect. Or imagine some kind of high-tech science weapon, kind of similar to a needler from Halo 3. It would fire all these fine metal needles, and I'm not talking syringes, and make these needles so superheated with its special technology that they actually glow bright orange, losing their color long after they've been fired and had ample time to cool down. You could craft more ammo for it, but there's only one copy of the gun, and it's unable to be modified apart from changing some bare basics like the scope. So in a nutshell, we just want more examples of one-of-a-kind items, both weapons and armors. Sure, the crafting and the legendary system can act as hindrances, but again, they really don't have to if we just add way more individual pieces of gear that you can't make, find, or come across in more than one way, and then have these replace many of the legendaries you get as quest rewards in shops or find in special locations.
The final thing that we want for Fallout 5 is better and more unique role-defining perks. As we previously touched on when talking about skills, many of Fallout 4's perks were in fact skills in disguise, perhaps with a little bonus flair, or they were crafting perks. Then beyond that, there are some perks such as Vans, which just aren't that great, nor are they role-defining. You had plenty of returning perks that gave statistical boosts, such as Toughness boosting your damage resistance, Rad Resistant boosting your radiation resistance, and Refractor boosting energy resistance. Arguably, these three could all just be incorporated as effects of a higher endurance stat, or perhaps a survival skill or something, but they make for pretty basic perks. But what we found in Fallout 4 is that because of the way the level up system is entirely based around perks, and they have to account for all the boosts of skills that are no longer there, we didn't have as many unique playstyle changing perks that really allowed you to create an individual role-playing experience. There are a few examples of perks that allow you to become proficient in a certain gameplay, role-playing style, as opposed to perks that just sort of boost your character, but not in a specific way. So a good example of this is Gun Fu, which basically makes you do more damage for every shot in VATS, and beyond your 4th shot, they are all instant critical hits. Now, because pistols generally have the lowest of action point costs, it makes sense to then use this perk to become a gunslinging, VATS-using aficionado. It's a perk that gives you an advantage with a certain type of weapon, allowing you to be an effective character within a certain niche. Whereas some perks like Action Boy, which give you more AP regen, are great for pretty much any combat character in general, but it doesn't define your build any further. And let me remind you, we are not against these types of generally applicable perks, but Fallout 4 had a lack of the former type of perk. For example, in Fallout New Vegas, shotguns aren't that viable in the late game by themselves. However, with both the Shotgun Surgeon and the Stay Back perk, as well as certain stat choices, you can make a very viable and powerful shotgun build, allowing you to be a shotgun character, despite shotguns being outclassed late game. Or if I wanted to be a character who is some kind of Brotherhood of Steel Paladin using only energy weapons, then I could get the perk Laser Commander, which gives laser weapons 15% more damage and 10% more chance to critical hit. Or if you were doing plasma weapons, you could get Plasma Spaz, which reduces their AP costs, which may make a Plasma VATS build more viable. Another example would be if you wanted to be an anarchist who brings down the system, you could pick the Fight the Power perk, which boosted your defense and critical chance against enemies wearing faction armor like NCR or Caesar's Legion. See how that kind of perk further gives your character an identity? A niche. In our opinion, perks are at their best when they give you unique effects or boost niche gameplay styles so that you can fulfill a certain type of playstyle that is individual and special to your character. More unique perks like this are great for builds, great for role-playing, and great for replayability.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of our first video in the series, 5 Things We Want in Fallout 5. If you want to back and forth some of your best Fallout game ideas with us or brainstorm cool concepts as we create ideal game videos based on a variety of locations, be sure to come to our live streams in the future. Remember, we announce streams on Twitter and our social media links are in the description. If you're wanting to get some cool merchandise inspired by our version of the Great Khan's Empire from our ideal Fallout Wyoming video, you can get that on our Teespring store, also linked below. Any support you can offer really helps us make this kind of more niche creative content. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way through. We really love to talk about this stuff with people, and your passion towards it means a lot to us. Remember to try to get top comment for why we should make part 2 and what will happen if we don't. It has been Michael with Scott, and we look forward to nerding out with you again next time.